Welcome to the Maximum Libertarian podcast. I hope myself and my guests can effectively explain why individual liberties are essential to building a stronger community and supporting and helping the growth of the Libertarian Party. So please go over to MaximumLibertarian.com to discover all the ways you can help grow this podcast. Now on with the show. Well, welcome everybody. We are Maximum Libertarian, powered by the Roanoke Valley Libertarians here in beautiful Roanoke, Virginia. Today we are joined by Barry D. Todd. He is a retired U.S. Army captain and decorated veteran, including service as a Army Ranger. Mr. Todd authored the book, the 2025 memoir, Stand Your Ground, One Man's Self-Defense Nightmare, detailing his 2014 experience in Arizona, where an act of self-defense during an assault outside a restaurant led to severe charges, including attempted murder and aggravated assaults, incarceration, and prolonged legal battle that exposed the perceived flaws in the criminal justice system. Welcome today, my friend, to discuss your new book.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.
I got your book. I listened to it on audio by Audible. There was a couple things in there. We've got some questions. I wrote them down. But how was the experience of writing the book? Because when I would go down to, let's say, the VFW or the American Legion, wherever, and I'm hanging out, what my time in the service was, I was lucky. I was on a submarine. I was a storekeeper. You yourself writing the book, just like with any war vet who's actually seen combat, sometimes I always get spooked about like, hey, I don't want to open up a box I can't close. How was it writing it? Does that make sense?
It was emotional, very emotional at first. The whole ordeal, Brian, took literally about 8 to 9 years to clear my record. So it was 26 months as a criminal, but then because of the industry that my business is in, it took me another 5.5 years to clear my record there. And because you're guilty anymore until proven innocent in this country. And I don't care what anybody says, the things that they make you jump through to prove your innocence shows that you're guilty until proven innocent. But in answer to your question, yes, it was a very emotional time, but it's now that it's out and, I've been doing these interviews and all that, it's really helped me heal a lot as well, though, which is a beautiful thing. It's helped me, to really get over the whole emotional side of it. It's more about fixing a broken system and helping other Americans that have been wrongfully indicted.
Okay. Let's just start with your personal life. What motivated you to join the Army, and what's some of the highlights of your 20-year career?
Well, first off, let me begin by saying I grew up in a military family. I had 5 grandparents on my father's side that came over on the Mayflower. And, I know a lot of people say 5. I said, yeah, well, they only started out with about 65. So they all ended up marrying within each other.
Right.
But it's a beautiful thing. And nearly all of my ancestors had served the country in some way, shape, or form, including both my mother and my father. So I always knew I was going to go in. And at a very young age, I used to watch all the John Wayne movies and the Clark Gable movies, Gary Cooper, all of the old war movies. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that right there. I'm going to go in the military just like my parents did and serve my country. And it's a wonderful thing. I would not trade it for the world, but it's a young man's game. I wish I could go back now under this administration.
What made you go Ranger? Was that something where you had already planned on it through seeing John Wayne and things of that nature?
It was back and forth. I knew I wanted to be in special operations, but I met a man who was a Vietnam vet who was a Ranger through my mother,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a Medal of Honor recipient. And I got to hang out with him a little bit when I was younger, and it was just the awe and respect I had for that man was unbelievable. And so I decided to go ahead and give that a try, and be the best soldier that I could be.
Okay. How long? So, and then how long was that as a Ranger? Like 20 years? How many years was being a Ranger?
All
Well,
of
okay, so you started. So you went to basic and then right to Ranger school.
my first assignment was Bravo Company Ranger separate before the regiment was ever stood up.
Okay, wow.
If most people ever know Ranger history, Rangers have been around. They're the oldest special operations force in our government. They started in the colonial period in 1645. As Rangers like to say, we've been stacking bodies since 1645. And after World War II, all the Ranger battalions were dismantled. They were deactivated. And then they brought in Ranger companies that were Korea and Vietnam. When I first came in, I was first assigned to that Bravo Company Rangers separate. And they were I didn't know it at the time because I was a young private, that 2 years later, within 2 years, they would be deactivated too because the battalions were being stood back up.
Wow. So you retire from the military, and that leads you into the financial sector. And you eventually, became the top dog there at that spot. What drew you from being military into the financial sector?
Well, I was going to college. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I went to college while I was in the military, a lot of it in the Rangers and other units. But I realized that finance was just enticing me, and then understanding how capitalism worked. And I just became very intrigued with it. And the more I dove into it, the more I learned, the more I became more intrigued. And then I realized, I could actually, and that's one of the things I learned about capitalism. I'm assuming you're a libertarian based on the name of the show.
I am.
All right, so that's a beautiful thing, and most people don't realize that if you look at every other economic system that's ever been created in the world throughout human history, the only way a man or a woman became wealthy was enslaving or murdering their fellow man, with the exception of capitalism. Capitalism is the only one that allows you to become wealthy serving your fellow man, and that's a beautiful thing. So helping people. And then when I was in the military, what made me specifically choose the financial services world, my wife and I, after the invasion of Panama, we went in, we were very tight on money right around that time period. It was just tough. We had 2 mortgages, 2 car payments. I was an NCO in the Rangers. She was a secretary, and we were living paycheck to paycheck with 2 kids and had very little in the bank. And we went to a seminar, and we realized, we could do this. And then we had advisors, a couple of advisors through the remaining 10, 11 years of my career that helped us make smart choices. So when I retired, I had a mortgage-free home. I had 5 figures in savings, 6 figures in investments, and no debt. And that was a beautiful thing. And why not be able to share with other people how to do that? It's no different than someone going and hiring a trainer at the gym. It's the same thing. When you have somebody that is that's not tied to your money, that doesn't have an emotional decision in the money, that you're paying a reasonable fee for their time, they can advise you based on where you're sitting, what's in your best interest. And so that's what I've been doing ever since, and it's been a great thing.
All right, so now we've talked about that. Now we're going to go to the 2014 incident. Can you walk us through what happened the night outside the Arizona restaurant, which led to the assault and the decision to act in self-defense?
Well, in a nutshell, my wife and I were simply out with some other retired friends. We were threatened, and then I was viciously attacked, not by 1 man, but 2 men, one of them wielding a knife, and they attacked me twice. And in the scuffle, as they tried to attack me on the second time to get my weapon from me, the weapon went off. When the police showed up literally 10, 15 minutes later without any due process or investigation, they arrested me, incarcerated me for 5 days with no Miranda rights, no medical treatment for a concussion, broken rib, broken arm. And when I got out, I was charged with, after I posted a huge bond, $500,000 cash only, I was had charges of attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault.
When you go through a situation like that, because I've always been, it depends on who you talk to within the Libertarian Party itself. You know, there's some people that believe that they don't like police officers. Some people, like myself, I like police officers. What type of, and and I know because you're in that high emotional state. What's the brush? Did you have like any type of brush stroke where you're like, hey, it's this individual that I get angry with some of the decision making, not the entire police force? Did you go through emotions like that during things like that?
Somewhat, but I also knew that it was the system itself. The system has been designed to it's been flipped upside down, and I believe it's happened over the past 50, 60 years, where you are guilty now until proven innocent. Think about this, Brian. I have never been charged in my life with anything outside of a speeding ticket. Then this incident happened. I'm a decorated vet, disabled vet, retired, living in Yuma, Arizona, been here, made this my home. I'm involved in the church. I own a business. My wife owns a real estate business. Things are going very well. And then all of a sudden I'm tacked and I'm charged with these vicious, absolutely vicious charges. And what really frustrated me is the entire thing was on video. They ran me through. When I say there was no due process, there were 16 cameras in and around this establishment. So in and outside, every single moment of the incident was on video. So they had 160 hours of video to go through. Did they go through those 160 hours? No. They charged me within 5 hours. They never even looked at the videos for 5 more days. They made me go. They required me to post a $500,000 cash only bond. They turned around and put me on what they call pretrial services. Okay, and for our listeners out there and viewers, that's that's probation. You actually go to the probation office. They took my guns. I wasn't allowed to drink alcohol. They had to go meet with a pretrial services officer, a probation officer, because he was licensed as a probation officer, and meet with them every 2 weeks so he could try to psychoanalyze me. And then I was called at least once a month without notice to go take a blood and urinalysis test so they could test me for drugs. Then the federal government, I was forced by the company that I own a smaller company at the time. It was underneath a larger company. They forced me to drop my licenses, give up the presidency, and I could no longer provide for my family during that time, except I own this company. So I wasn't giving up my position as chairman of the board. And then I got paid as a contractor from outside my own company to advise them on the right way to go until I was cleared 26 months later. So that's what I mean when I say the whole system is turned upside down. Now, I will tell you that if I had not had a judge that had knowledge of and respect for the law, I would have been thrown in jail without hands down.
Wow. When you mentioned displaying the firearm initially, then the weapon discharging during the struggle, can you just describe what a chaotic moment that was?
Oh, it's always chaotic. But just like we learned in my military service, those that win in any type of situation like that, if there is a winner, are the ones that remain calm. So initially, the guy tried to fight me inside. I walked away from him two times, and then a third time outside. But the first 2 times inside, he wanted to pick a fight, said he was going to kick my ass. And I said, that's not happening. I said, I'm 52 years old. I'm too old to get in a barroom fight. That is not happening. And I walked out to my car after the second one to get a fresh can of Copenhagen. As I was coming back in, he had followed me outside and was blocking my path. And I tried to walk around him, and he stepped in front of me. And I said, what is the problem? He goes, I'm going to teach you respect. I said, you're not teaching me anything. I'm going in the building. I'm gonna go hang out with my wife and my friends. And I tried to walk around him, and you know how they try that bully yard stuff, pushing to the shoulder and stepping in front of you. You know, you've seen kids do it before. And right. He tried doing that, going in one direction. So I went the other way, and I finally got around him. But then he got hold of my belt loops from behind. He outweighed me by 100 pounds, picked me up, threw me 180 degrees, and flung me into a cinder block wall head first.
Right.
I get up, then the bouncer comes out, gets between us. Some things are said. I get sucker punched across the side of the head. I said, I'm going in, get my wife and my belongings. I'm out of here, because the bouncer wasn't doing anything. He should have thrown the guy out, according to Arizona law. He didn't do it. And then the guy that attacked me, Ryan Rocky Height, said that, you're not going back in there, and that B, using the B word, referencing my wife, is mine.
Right.
And that's when I warned him that I was armed. And in Arizona, you don't have to have your weapon on you. You don't have to retreat. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It's some people call it stand your ground. In our state, we call it justification defense. And anyway, he goes, go get your effing gun. And I said, okay. So I walked back to my car. It was 40 feet away. Got my weapon, had it down by my side in accordance with Arizona law, tried to go back in the building again. He was blocking the door. Right. And I stopped short of him. I pointed my finger right at him. I said, don't F with me. I'm going in the building, get my wife's and my belongings, and I'm leaving. And he immediately attacked me again. That's when his buddy attacked me from behind with a knife and pulled me to the ground. In the scuffle, he was trying so hard to get the weapon out of my hand that he had it pulled into his stomach, and he actually broke my arm during that scuffle or that attack. And some people call it a scuffle, I call it an attack. But anyway, the weapon discharged. Right before discharge, I said, this is going to suck for both of us.
Right. And what I keep hearing, like, the bouncer comes outside. Why did anyone ever, but I never heard in the book, why didn't anyone just say, okay, we're going to either follow you to get your stuff and your wife, or, like you said, kicked him out? But be it here or there, did the restaurant have any type of, since they weren't really, it didn't sound like they separated y'all very well. It was more of a, hey, stop fighting over there.
No, they didn't. And the owner that owned the place was not there. He was actually a buddy of mine. He was a helicopter pilot from Vietnam. That's why we went there. Me and my friends went there every month. Once a month, we would meet there to have dinner and support his business. We were all retired military.
Okay. Because that's always seems like everything led to, everyone was going outside. The one lady said she went outside for a smoke. The bar, and then it just never was. No one ever said, I tried to get in between these.
No, nobody did. They were all his friends. They were all his friends. Those are all the same ones. So that in the preliminary hearing, after he got sent back to a grand jury the fourth time, on that fourth time, they decided to do a preliminary hearing, and that's where they all recanted their testimony, because they were all friends of his, and they all had said that I had pointed the weapon, I had threatened him, everything else, and I didn't do any of that. And the video, if there had not been video there, I would have definitely been put in jail.
Yeah, especially because I know that there's the book even talked about how sometimes they put up dummy cameras, sometimes they don't record, And
Correct.
I'm glad. I mean, if you've got them up, I mean, you are very lucky that you had actual video of it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you get charged with it. What was the biggest challenges you faced while incarcerated and fighting the charges without what you felt was proper evidence or due process?
One was a incompetent police detective. That was number one. He was honest, but he was extremely incompetent. And he admitted that he never read me my Miranda rights. He finally admitted it. Since you read the book, during the preliminary hearing when my attorney was cross-examining, that he did go into the interview with preconceived notions that I was guilty. Now, this is a guy that had been on the force 18 years and been a lead detective in Yuma for 9. All right. And then the other side of it was a prosecutor that does not care for the law. We have him on tape admitting that he didn't care to my attorney that I followed the law. I could have come back with a gun stuck up my ass. He didn't care that I followed the law. And that's what causes the system to get turned upside down. And see, one of the problems you have is grand juries. Grand juries, have you ever heard the term, Brian, where they say you can indict a ham sandwich in a grand jury? Have you ever heard that term?
No, I've not heard that, but I've heard other things about grand juries.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. It's a prosecutor's playground. They have a choice of what evidence they're going to present to a grand jury. There is no judge in there. There is no defense. And that's a sad thing. That's why a couple of states, I'd like to see it happen in more, require a preliminary hearing on any felony complex case. Connecticut and Pennsylvania are 2 of them. Their people don't go to trial on a grand jury anymore because the grand jury is so one lopsided.
How many states do you know are doing that?
Those are the only 2 that are doing it full time. The other ones have preliminary hearings, but like in Arizona, the prosecutor has to request it, which again, that's giving him all the power. Why can't you request it why can't a defense request a preliminary hearing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you feel the legal system handled key evidence, witness statements, and the stand your ground principles in your case?
Well, let me step back for a second.
Okay.
Do your listeners understand the difference between a grand jury and a preliminary hearing? Probably not.
Yeah, can you go through that? That's probably a good idea.
Yeah. A grand jury, for your listeners out there, is where you have 9 to 16 novice people that come off the street, and they're usually doing it for 6 months. So they're on this task of 6 months of determining by a prosecutor presenting evidence by himself, nobody else there, evidence, is there probable cause to charge a person? Probable cause means there has to be a 50.1% greater chance that this person that you're looking at committed a crime or not. In my case, the prosecutor never presented any of the videos. He never presented any of the justification defense laws, what you're calling, Brian, stand your ground laws. And he never told him about my injuries. Concussion, broken arm, broken rib, didn't cover any of that. A preliminary hearing is where instead of novice civilians coming off the street determining is there a 50% chance, there's a mini trial in front of a judge who knows and has respect for the law. That's why he's in that position. And the prosecutor and defense put on their evidence, and he decides, is there a 50% chance or greater? And if it is, then it goes to trial. If it's not, the charges are dismissed. And in my case, the brilliant thing was we didn't even have to put on any evidence. My case was dismissed at the end of the prosecution's presentation of his case, because all my attorney did was cross-examine the witnesses that the prosecution had using the video from that night, and all of them recanted their testimony. You read the book. It was unbelievable.
Right. So it goes, so just to make sure I get it clear, it goes from a grand jury, then it'll go to the preliminary hearing. At that point, it's a little small trial for a judge to see if it actually goes.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Okay.
Yeah, but that's in Arizona. But if you have a felony in the state of Connecticut, there is no grand jury. It's 100% preliminary hearing.
Okay. Do you like the idea of having? I know what might be the with like having a grand jury. Would it get thrown out? Like the grand jury might even have to go to a preliminary hearing.
I think it should. I think anybody that's charged with a felony should do that. Secondly, I think people that have never been in trouble and have a history of being good citizens shouldn't be put on pretrial confinement. I don't think they should have their guns taken from them. I don't think they should have to post $500,000 cash-only bonds.
Right.
That wiped out mine and my wife's entire retirement. We even had to borrow some from family to make that, because all the money was in the business.
What a nightmare.
Yeah, tell me about
what
it.
Were you, how did you stay calm during it or keep centered? I mean, the emotion must have been just going up and down and all twisting and turning. Just your support, I guess, with your wife and family, friends.
Number one, always is Jesus Christ, my Lord. I mean, He is. That was number one. Number two was my belief in America. Number three was my Ranger training. And last but definitely not least was support of my family, friends, and Ranger brothers.
Right.
Because they all knew that, that I'm not some hothead that walks around shooting a gun.
Yeah.
All right. You got to back me into a corner to where, all right, because if they had gotten that gun from me that night, I would have been dead. There was no doubt in my mind. Yeah.
Because, when you talk about, and I can't remember, was it Ortiz? They watched the video when you were in the holding cell with, and they were trying to use you praying as a guilty, like you must be guilty.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of wild to hear that, I think.
And you know what's funny is, you can tell your listeners that is 100% out of the transcripts from the preliminary hearing. When if you go out there and get my book at standyourgroundbook.com or go to defenseresourcesfoundation.org, that's where all the money is going to help other people that are wrongfully indicted. All right. It is hilarious about the police detective. He thought I was guilty because I was praying in the waiting room, not a cell. It was a waiting room before they came in and interviewed me. So I get down, they handcuff me, they take me downtown. They don't tell me if I'm arrested or not, but they handcuff me, throw me in the back of a car, take me downtown. They never read me my rights. They throw me in an interview room, and I'm like, okay, we need to pray here. That's the first thing that came to my mind. We're going to pray. And I prayed for the guy that just got shot.
Right.
All right. That's what my faith believes in. And I don't want to see anybody get hurt. That's why I tried to walk away from him. I didn't want to use my weapon. That's ludicrous. But I'm also not going to let somebody threaten my wife, my family, myself. It's just not going to happen. And so I'm praying for him. And at the beginning of my prayer, for your listeners, I said, I started out my prayer, Heavenly Father, thank you for your precious son, Jesus. And dear Lord, please forgive me for my evil, the sin that I've done. And please be with this young man, Ryan Haidt. Dear Lord, he was drunk. And I went on for like probably 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And he tried to pluck that one phrase out of there and say that I admitted I was guilty right there at the beginning of my prayer. Well, I was taught whenever I'm praying, I always ask God for forgiveness of my sins, for the things that I've done. That doesn't mean I'm admitting guilt to this.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of a crazy. But I mean, I don't know what else was going through that guy's head. So
Yeah.
how do you feel the legal? Go ahead.
Well, the second question you had before I explained the difference between the two was how did I stay calm through all this? And just like I said, it was Jesus Christ. And I'll be honest with you, my friend. God is good. God is good, because look at me now. I'm on your podcast. I've been on 60 to 70 other podcasts and news stations talking about my book, trying to raise awareness of what's going on across the country. Look at Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny should have never been charged. It should have never gone to trial. And for your listeners that don't know who Daniel Penny was, he was the young Marine on the New York subway that protected all of those passengers by subduing the guy that was on drugs. Alvin Bragg, the prosecutor there in New York, the lead prosecutor, said, we're going to definitely take this to trial. And he said it before he ever saw any evidence, because the guy died 10 minutes after the police showed up, and they tried to say it was asphyxiation from the hold that he had on him. Well, you're discounting all the drugs this guy had in his system. And then all of the witnesses that were on the subway said, no, the guy defended us. He protected us, all that. Do you think that would have gotten through the grand jury, Brian, if Alvin Bragg had showed those witnesses and those videos to the grand jury? Would he have ever been charged?
I don't believe so.
No. So that's a perfect example. They purposely withheld exculpatory evidence in order to get it to trial, so that way the prosecutor can stand up there and say, it wasn't my fault, it was the jury's.
Do you think when it comes to cases, because we're now seeing a lot of cases across the country where people will stand by as evil acts takes place like that? The lady was, I think, was at New York. She was caught on fire. And the governor that day had released how safe the MTA was. You have the Ukrainian lady who was stabbed in the back of the neck. And there's so many more people just standing around and they're not doing anything. Do you feel that it may be because of the I don't want to jump on this guy and then all of a sudden I'm getting charged for murder, even though I'm doing the right thing. Do you feel that's what's going on because of the prosecution and things? How would we?
Oh yeah. And also we've taken the definition of honor out of our schools.
Right.
And you're going to be shocked by me saying this, but we really have. We don't teach civics anymore. We don't teach constitutional, to understand that we're a constitutional republic.
Right.
They always focus on the first sentence of the Declaration or the first sentence of the Constitution. But you ask them anything else that's in there and you won't get a word. And the funny thing is that the most important sentence out of both of those documents is the last sentence of the Declaration of Independence. And it said, with the guidance and faith in our Creator, all right, we, hold on, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. What does that mean, honor? You can't find it in today's dictionary, but if you go back and look at one that was printed in 1880, honor means doing the right thing no matter the cost.
Right.
And that's what frustrated me about the police. Because in my case, the police, I knew 3 or 4 of the police officers of the YPD.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was a youth pastor at my church. The other one was his brother, who was my trainer when I went and got my CCW after I retired from the military, my concealed weapons carry permit. The other one was a guy I served with, and then another one that I knew. All 4 of them, we asked them to come in, my attorney and lead detective did, and to look at the video and see if they'd be willing to be an expert witness for us, or to at least write a statement that, according to the video, I followed the law. Every single one of them watched the video. every single one of them sat there in front of my attorney and say, wow, Barry's got a good case. I don't know if I would have done anything differently. Wow, this is crazy. And every time they were asked to go ahead and do that, every single one of them said, I got to protect my brothers in blue. So instead of doing the honorable thing, they place loyalty above the honorable thing.
Right.
And that's wrong.
Oh, absolutely. So
that's why I think that taking honor out of our society and our not training our kids on it is led to people being lethargic, not moving, stuck in their seats when they're seeing bad things happen.
Right. But the only thing I will do is they'll pick up their cell phone to record, and not actually help or call for help.
Yep.
It's just we're just in such a weird spot now. So how did you feel that the legal system handled or mishandled your key evidence, witness statements, and stand your ground principles in your case? Did you?
Well, it was all of it right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I, in all honesty, I was very naive. The night I was arrested, I talked to the police. He came in. I sat down, and he brought in a charge sheet. He said, "Read this and sign it." I said, "What is it?" I said, I don't have my glasses. I can't read it. What is it? And he goes, "It's a charge sheet." And I said, "I'm being charged with what?" And he goes, "Attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault." And I said, "I told you it was strictly self-defense." And then I said to him, I said, "Great." Or I said, he told me that. And I said, "Yeah, I told you it was strictly self-defense." And he goes, "Well, we have the whole thing on video." I said, "Great. Have you looked at the video?" His exact words to me, Brian, were, "Not yet." I lost my mind at that point. And you read the book, you'll find out what I said to him. But my Ranger NCO days when I was a Ranger instructor came out, and I verbally abused that detective.
Yeah. How long did the entire process last for you? From
the criminal, the civil, or both?
Well, from being prosecuted to reaching to the outcome.
26 months and 17 days was when the case was dismissed.
Wow. Okay.
And it cost me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to just ask after that. Like, then you're probably still feeling some of the in your
not as much life now, no, because I've had it sealed. It took me about 5.5, 6 years to get the record sealed. They didn't have a law in Arizona for sealing. They finally created one. And the regulators, because my company and I am registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission as a fee-only advisor, and so is my firm. But the regulation, not the law, and this is what's bad with bureaucrats. They created regulations where you have to disclose any felony you were ever charged with. Whether you were found guilty or not, it doesn't matter. It has to be disclosed to everybody. And that's number one. Number two, you can't take it off under the old rules unless it was expunged.
Right.
And it's still that way. I just had to fight through it. But an expungement means you were found guilty to get a record expunged. I was never found guilty. My charges were dismissed. It never even went to trial. So I couldn't get it off my record until 5.5 years later. About 4.5 years into that, Arizona passed a law that allowed you to seal the record. And so my attorney went back to the courts, and they found that I was wrongfully indicted or otherwise charged and sealed the record. Then my attorney had to go to all the federal agencies. We had to fight through the Securities and Exchange Commission because they didn't think seal the record was the same as expungement. But finally, we got it all off.
That's good.
Yeah, but that cost me another $250,000.
Yeah. That's always nice. Uh, so, what specific changes to self-defense laws or general or justice procedures would you advocate for? Now that it's all said and done, I know you said that you had the one and you're helping raise money to help people in defense funds for people going through things like yourself. What would be some of the self-defense laws that you would like to see changed?
Well, like in Arizona, I think that that anybody that's found not guilty or should be, since, see, you got to understand, prosecutors have absolute immunity. So you can't go after them.
Right.
In these cities that pay money to people, it's all political because they'd lose in court.
Right.
It's all just to please the constituents. So I think that Arizona should pass a law. If you're going to charge and they're found not guilty, or it was found that they were wrongfully indicted or otherwise charged, the state should have to pay them back all the money that they spent.
Right. Now that's because that's pretty nationwide. That's nationwide with because everyone I've never even thought about because you always hear of qualified immunity in regards to police officers.
Correct.
I had never thought about prosecutor immunity, and then when you look at what Donald Trump went through, that as an example, because I know everyone knows that you were seeing charges get brought that people were saying they shouldn't be brought to this high level, and there was nothing he could do.
Oh, I know. Same thing with me. Same thing with me. This lawfare has been going on for a long time. I have the prosecutor that actually said to my attorney about having the weapon up my butt. A minute later, when they turned the microphone off, my attorney pulled the prosecutor off to the side and said, "Jim, my client, Mr. Todd, followed the law."
Yeah.
And his exact words to him, "Mike, I don't care."
Yeah.
What do you do about that? What do you do with that?
And what I'm going to say is just at least you had the money to fight it. There's a lot of people like myself who would not be in that position to where I'd be able to throw out so much money. I mean, if I did, I'd be done.
Exactly, and that's why we started the Defense Resources Foundation. It's a fledgling nonprofit right now, but we're trying to get people to go to the website, start giving. You can order a book from defenseresourcesfoundation.org, and depending on the level of donation, you'll get a gift of my autographed book, all that, or you can go out and just get it on your own. If you feel like giving, just give. We need to start putting money away for it. And the board that we set up on this they're all legal police officers and attorneys that were on my case or that were around me at the time that stood up for me. And they're people of honor. And we want to be able to get resources to people that were wrongfully indicted, like Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny should have never been charged. And how much did that cost him? Over here in East Arizona, we had an older gentleman in his 70s, George Allen, who was fourth generation ranch owner. He goes out on his property one morning, probably about a mile away from his house, half a mile away from his house, and finds a dead illegal with a big hole in his chest. He immediately calls the police. 2 weeks later, that Liberal County George Soros prosecutor charged him with murder. Lost his whole ranch. Unbelievable.
And
now, he was found not guilty, but he had to put up his ranch on mortgage and sell it to get it.
Right. And there's no way he can ever get that back.
Not unless that guy's going to sell it back to him, but then who's going to help him pay it off?
Right. You're a longtime Second Amendment advocate, obviously. How has the experience strengthened or changed your views on gun rights and self-defense laws?
Oh, I'm so much more for it. So much more for it. And every state should have justification defense laws. And So your listeners understand, in Arizona, this was the key. This is where the prosecutor messed up. And see, that's the other thing. Prosecutors, I don't know of any state that requires prosecutors that or any attorney that works for a government agency to have continuing ed. Police officers are not required to take continuing ed. Everybody in the civilian world is, but not government officials. That's just like doctors that don't have that work for the military. They don't have to be licensed in any particular state or pass any exams or anything. A lot of people don't know that, but yeah, the federal government, they don't do that. So anyway, the what was the question again? Sorry, I sort of went on a rant.
We were talking about your experience and how has it changed your views on the Second Amendment.
All right. Oh yeah, and I was going into justification. Every state should have justification defense laws, and what it is in Arizona, California, Illinois, they have affirmative defense. That's what the entire country used to have. Now 28 states have justification defense laws. Those are called your stand your ground laws. Now, what's the difference between the two? Affirmative defense, Brian, is you're in a shooting like I was, and you claim self-defense. You have to prove that it was self-defense. Now, in a justification defense, to get the balance of power back to what the Constitution was originally intended, a lot of states have passed these laws. In Arizona, the moment I said to Detective Torres it was self-defense, at that moment it was his responsibility and the prosecutors to prove that it wasn't self-defense. They weren't supposed to charge me at all.
The how did it affect your family, with all like your family, your immediate family, friends and co-workers? That sucks for Barry, but your kids, wife, how has this ordeal affected them? Are they pretty good?
Yeah, they're good. At first, they tried to defend me on social media and the news and running into people and all that. I said, you don't have to defend me. I'm good. I said, we'll get through this, and that's just going to make us all stronger, but don't try to defend me. I was called all kinds of heinous names that were absolutely disgusting, Brian. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Oh, I can imagine.
But actually it made us stronger.
Okay.
I'll tell you, and I haven't said this outright, my wife and I were going through some rough times right before that. We were probably close on the verge of divorce, and thank God, this did happen. Maybe that's one of the reasons God stopped it, was to stop me from moving forward with a divorce, because it made us super close.
Wow.
We dove into the Bible and she was right there with me the whole way through.
What brought you to that? You spoke about Jesus. How have you always been in a Christian, or did this event bring you closer?
I was raised a Christian, but I walked away when I was very young and immature, blaming God for the things that I've seen, the things that happened to some family members and all that. All the stuff that we all think, well, God should have stepped in here. Well, what I've learned as I've gotten older is God's timing is perfect. We always think he's too late, but for us, it's always perfect. Once you understand that it's not on his timeline. But in '99, I started walking in faith again. And reconnected with God, and it's been a journey, a great journey, on the highs and the lows all the way through. The lessons I've learned from this ordeal and what I can help other people with is a beautiful thing. I mean, I had a guy reach out to me recently, not recently, probably about 18 to 24 months ago, who got in trouble here, a good guy here in town, and he had chased some guys down that were breaking into his property. And even though he says he didn't point his weapon, his video cam on his truck showed that he did. It wasn't there long, but he did point the weapon, and he was going to be charged, and they didn't want to. They wanted him to accept a downgrade of a misdemeanor, and he brought me in and asked me, should I fight this? And I said, oh, hell no, you'll lose. And I said, because you do not point the weapon until you have no choice.
Okay. The going back real quick, because you were talking about like prosecutors and officers. I'm in water treatment, for instance. So every year or every 2 years, we have to do continuing professional credits, so CPEs.
Exactly.
And have you or your organization been lobbying to get that? Because that's actually a really good thing to try to get, make a standard across the country where police officers or prosecutors are constantly because like you I know in the book it talked about which one was it, didn't know the law that you talked about, the
police officer and the prosecutor,
right?
Neither one of them knew about it.
Correct. So that they didn't know that, and I can't remember.
Hell, my own attorney didn't know about it.
Right? Yeah, because you had to give it to him, and he had to go look it up. Right? That's right. Yeah. So are y'all doing any type of lobbying to get that pushed through, at least at the state level, or is that something you would have to push nationally?
I am doing it through the political system here. I'm not doing it necessarily through the foundation, but I am talking to two politicians in my state, and I think it will happen in the coming few years.
I think that's a wonderful thing. And if you have any information about it, I would love to see it, just because I would like to start taking it to my representatives and stuff like that. That's a really, really good idea.
A law changes every year to 2 years. When things change in whatever state that we're doing business or whatever federally, I have to go through continuing ed, and I have to take tests.
Right.
And I have to get 70% or better that I retained the information on these new rules and policies for these different states. I don't understand why they didn't. I mean, it was so funny. The police detective in the preliminary hearing, my attorney started asking him about the laws. He goes, well, Arizona 13-421, that's defensive display of a firearm. My attorney kept asking him, have you ever heard of this? Well, I heard of it, but I know something about it. Well, did you ever have to go through any continuing ed on it? No, I saw it on a CD one time, but I didn't have a chance to read it.
Right.
Really? If you had read that law and watched the video, you would have said, I was not guilty. You would have said you're going to lose this if you go to trial. It was so funny, Brian, and you read it in the book just for your listeners.
Yeah. When
the judge got so upset after the third grand jury that he took the video that was not being shown to the grand jurors, he watched it himself and made a finding of fact that I followed Arizona law and made it a permanent ruling in the court case. My criminal attorney, who was one of the two attorneys on the Miranda rights case, Michael Kimmer, who's now deceased, he said to me, he goes, in my over 50 years of practicing law, I have never seen a judge make a finding of fact before a case goes to trial.
Wow. Huh. But I really think that's something that your book talked about that, and I thought that was, like, I never thought about, like I said, I never thought about prosecutor immunity. We always talk about police officer or the qualified immunity. So, we're wrapping up here, getting real close. So let's see. How do you define true justice in cases like yours, and how do you feel the system often fails law-abiding citizens?
Well, right now, I'm going to say it right up front. For people that are first-time offenders and all that, you are guilty until proven innocent, especially if it's a felony. There is no showing leniency unless you know buddies there. Now, if you know buddies, oh, yeah, we'll take a look at this. We'll find out what it is. But if you don't know them and they want to throw the book at you, oh, yeah, they're going to throw the book at you. So you're guilty until proven innocent. That's number one. Number two, I would say that make the state, these counties, these municipalities start paying back the money that they're costing the American taxpayer for when they're wrongfully indicted or they're found not guilty. Because once you start doing that, these prosecutors will stop going in and getting people charged for BS, just like they did with Donald Trump, just like they did with Daniel Penny, just like they did with George Allen. Right. George Allen would still have his ranch right now.
Correct.
If they had to pay back that money.
Oh, yeah. What was the most surprising or rewarding response you've received since publishing the book?
The most rewarding, I would have to say, your book touched me in a way that lets me know that I can get through anything in my life.
Excellent.
Yeah, that really teared me up a little bit. I mean, because a lot of people said, I'm surprised you just didn't go and hide and ball up in a corner. I'm like, no, Rangers don't do that. That ain't happening. That ain't happening.
Right. All right. And the final question is, what is one question I should have asked you that you want our listeners to know?
What are the things I learned out of the entire thing? Number one, keep your mouth shut. Don't be naive and tell the police anything. Number two, make sure you have some type of protection, whether it's insurance through Delta Defense and USCCA, NRA, I don't care. Make sure you have some type of insurance. It's inexpensive and it's worth it. Mm-hmm. Number three, remember, you are the CEO, the chief executive officer of your legal team. When you read my book, you're going to see in there where I had to fire parts of my legal team because I am a leader. I'm not going to let you blow smoke up my butt. I look for results. And don't think that your attorney is going to take that lead for you. That's not his job. All right. His job is to advise you. And don't think that your attorney is always right. Just like as you read in my book, we found out my attorney skipped a step and he skipped an entire quarter of fees that I didn't have to pay him for his mistake.
Yeah.
All right. And then number four is remember how it affects your family, your friends, and your business associates. All right. Because it does affect them, whether you like it or not, and whether you don't have time to deal with it, deal with it. All right. I was blessed because we didn't lose any clients.
Right.
Which was a beautiful thing. We had one that did leave, but ended up coming. They spent 9 months at another firm, and it was so bad that they said, okay, we don't like this firm. They don't do near the stuff you did, Barry. So they came back.
All right. Well, my friend, thank you so much. Once again, where can they get that book from? I know they can get it from audible.com. And what's the websites they get it from for you?
You can go directly to standyourgroundbook.com or defenseresourcesfoundation.org. And Brian, I want to thank you for having me on your show today. It's been a blessing. God bless you. My wife is from Roanoke, Virginia.
All right.
She was just back there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful home in East Tennessee in Greenville, so about 2-3 hours south of you there.
Excellent. So until next time, next time you're in Roanoke, please stop by. We'll talk.
We will, brother. We will.
All right. And thanks everyone for watching. And until next time, I'm Brian. That's Barry. And we will see you later. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Maximum Libertarian podcast. Visit MaximumLibertarian.com to help me grow this podcast. So until next time, my friends, stay centered.